Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by Titan FC Featherweight, Steven Siler. Steven, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Steven, you got a fight coming up December 19th at Titan FC 32. Before we start talking about that fight, let's go back in time a little bit because, obviously this is the first time that you're going to be fighting outside of the UFC. So I guess we'll start with the UFC, your former employer. Overall, top to bottom, good or bad, how was the overall experience?
No, it was a great run, actually. I think I had a lot of upside, that's for sure, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting back. So, I feel like I don't feel like my time's over with the UFC yet. I think I'm just on a little bit of a delay, and I'll get right back to it here hopefully soon.
Mm-hmm. Now, Steven, it took you 6 years and a stint on The Ultimate Fighter to make it into the UFC, and once you got into the UFC, you had a long run considering the average amount of fights a UFC fighter lasts these days. You had a pretty long run with that organization. So I'm just curious, what's harder to do? Is it harder to make it into the UFC, or is it harder to stay in the UFC?
I think for a lot of people it's harder to stay, but because of the fact that, for me personally, I didn't take the sport serious at first. I wasn't planning on being a professional fighter. Mm-hmm. And I started those first 12 fights without any training, so it racked up the losses pretty quickly. I think it was harder for me to get into the UFC because of the fact that I had all those losses on my record. And with the UFC seeing those losses on my record, they didn't want me. So I think for me personally, it was harder for me to get in, but I think for the most part, it's harder to stay.
Mm-hmm. I was curious about that. I looked at your record from the early days. Since you brought it up now, I guess we can touch on that. What were the early days of your MMA career like? Why exactly did you get into this sport? And I know you said a little bit earlier there that you weren't really taking the training seriously. Like, what were the early days, and why did you even get into MMA?
I can't even call it taking training seriously because I wasn't training. For my first couple fights, even before my first couple fights, I had a buddy that went down and trained in Brazil. And with the original shooter box camp with Van Way and Shogun and all those Anderson and all those guys,
right.
And he was only 14 years old. And he was 2 years younger than me. And when he got home, he was a pretty built kid, and he just always came and sorry, my baby's in the back. He always came home and we'd go to parties, and he'd just beat the crap out of me, basically, and I'd take it. And, when I was watching TV one day, I saw this local programming called Ultimate Combat Experience, and I saw it was on TV. You're fighting, which I got beat up anyway, so why not, try fighting, be on TV, and make some little extra cash while I had a good job and a good career going on. So I took my first 12 fights and went 5-7. One of those being a kickboxing match. And then after that, they told me, that I had potential and that I should probably start training, take it serious, and see how far I could take it. Started training, won my next 10, then lost to Chad Mendes, who turned out to be pretty good. Then I won my next 4. Got caught up against Cole Escobedo, but then made the Ultimate Fighter anyways, and, things went from there.
I see. You're on a 3-fight skid currently, and obviously that led to your exit from the UFC. I'm just curious, it's been a while here. What went wrong for you in those fights? Obviously, the one that sticks out to me is the Hani Jason fight. There was a little bit of controversy there, but overall, these 3 fights, what went wrong?
The main fight, I think I was still in a good mental spot, and I think both those fights, actually, the Hani Jason and Bermuda's fight. I thought that Bermuda's fight pretty tough. I feel like I could have got up a little bit more, but, that fight just didn't go my way. Honey Jason fight was more of a fluke more than anything else. And then, I feel like I kind of got comfortable in the UFC, too comfortable, and didn't really, wasn't motivated for Darrell Lahar. I figured he was a down opponent, and just didn't, I wasn't motivated at all. Even after the first round, I went to my corner and just told him, hey, coach, I just don't really want to fight right now. And, he looked at me like, all right, well, hopefully it turns on quick. I'm like, I think it will. Hopefully it does. And, the second round went a little bit better, and third round went really good, but it was already too late. So, just lack of motivation. But then, I got cut, which I never saw coming. I still figured I'd get one more chance, and they cut me kind of with a fire under my butt. So I got a lot more motivated, and I'm now looking forward to this next one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You fought last in the UFC. You fought back in July. Now, walk me through this. How long after that fight did the UFC cut you, and then how long after you got released did Titan come into the picture?
They took a while to cut me. They said they were contemplating it for quite some, going back and forth, and they seemed like they wanted to keep me. The last, what I heard, is the fact that Sean Shelby, the matchmaker, wouldn't be able to use me really till summertime. Mm-hmm. And it was more me needing to fight, and so they let me go to let me fight still. So they were going to use me till the summer, so I was able to get out of my contract, start fighting elsewhere, start making money for my family. And so I think they cut me about 2 months after, probably about 2 months after, and maybe even 3 actually, 2 or 3 months after, and then a week later I signed with Titan.
I see. Now, you touched on it earlier, and obviously by signing with Titan, your goal is to make it back to the UFC. Were there any other serious offers on the table, or was Titan just, first come, first serve, and offering you a really good deal and offering you what you want, which is ultimately to get back to the UFC? Were there any other players involved?
Not really. I mean, there were some, but none that I actually took serious, because of the fact that I wanted that out of, so I could get back to the UFC. I didn't want to get stuck anywhere. So Bellator and World Series kind of weren't serious contention. And I think right now, Titan's the third best. I think Titan's the third best promotion. I think the UFC is obviously the top. Bellator's right there, trying to compete with them. And I think World Series letting all their top guys go. They let Berkman go, they let Steve Carl, George Kirkanian, they let a lot of these guys go. And I think they're becoming more of a builder brand, where Titan's trying to promote, get a little bit higher, it feels like. So I feel right now Titan's, catching up to be the third best promotion, and it just made sense to go to them, and, having the outclass to the UFC, it all makes sense. Plus having a fight this year really worked for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, what about this title shot? Obviously, you're making your promotional debut, but it's also for a title. There's a belt on the line in this fight. So I'm just curious, was this always the plan for you to be fighting for the title in your debut? Like when you were going through the negotiations with Titan, was the plan for you to be fighting for the title for your first fight? Or was this something that came into the picture after you had already signed with Titan? Like when exactly did they offer you a title fight?
I'll find out when you guys did.
Okay.
So, originally, they had me and opponent matched up. And then the week of that Titan 31, probably like a day or two before the fights, and they told me that was not going through, that they're trying to find something else for me. And, so I was just waiting to hear. And then I watched the Des Green Torres fight, and I heard the announcers say that Jeff Erickson jumped up and said Des Green's getting an immediate title shot after that knockout, which I was a little shocked, because Hobo and that Brazilian guy just went through that tournament.
Right.
That type of thing to go for the number one contender. So I figured they were fighting for the title. And when they said Green was getting it, I was a little upset, feeling that he didn't really deserve it, because, he beat Miguel Torres, but Miguel Torres is really a bantamweight, in my opinion. He was a WEC bantamweight, and he's past his prime in my eyes. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, why did Des Green deserve the title shot? So I grabbed my iPad, started tweeting to complain, what does this guy do to earn a title shot? And all of a sudden I hear him say, they're going to offer you a title shot against Steve Siler. And me and my wife were actually sitting there listening, and we were both shocked to hear that my name. We were like, oh, well, yeah, that's good, cool. And I just deleted my tweet, and next thing I know, I'm tweeting them, say, let's go, let's start this fight.
Mm-hmm. Are you surprised that Titan gave you a title shot right off the bat? Because right now you're on a 3-fight losing streak. Now, of course, those 3 fights happened in the UFC, but you're on a 3-fight losing streak, and this is your debut. Were you surprised when they offered you a title fight right off the bat?
No, not at all, actually. I figure, if you look at everyone's resume, who's featherweight in their under contract with Titan, I feel I have the best resume. I feel I've beaten the better guys. My three-fight losing streak, but it is in the UFC. Nobody else is really such a level of competition that I thought. I beat the better names. I beat Holloway already, and he was fighting for the title. So, I figure I was the best man for the job.
Oh, okay. I see. Now, how many fights are you signed on with Titan for?
I believe 4.
Okay. And I've been seeing a lot of your training. I've been following your training very closely. You've been hitting a bunch of different spots. I saw a photo on Instagram a couple of days ago, you at Extreme Couture training with Misha Tate. I saw a tweet a day ago or so, you training at the lab in Arizona with Benson Henderson, John Crouch, Efrain Escudero, all those guys down there. How much cross-training have you been doing for this camp?
That's more, my home gym's the Pit Elevate in Utah. I've been training there, but, they have a lot of guys out right now. A lot of people just fought from the gym, or, Clay Collins fighting this weekend, and, the other guys, Core and Berkman, are the bigger guys. So, that don't really help me as much. I love rolling with Core, but matchmaking training-wise didn't really make sense to stick around with him. So the original plan was to come down here to the lab where it had a lot of guys, 55 and smaller, that I could work with, and, there are a lot of guys that are comparable to Des Green. They're good wrestlers, athletic, that will help me get the training I need. But I also have a 6-month-old baby, so we're making a drive down here. Why, instead of making it a 12-hour drive for me and the family, let's split it in half. We stopped by Vegas, and while I was in Vegas, I, trained at Couture's for a day, then shot right down here, and, I'm finishing the camp down here.
Now, is this something that you would consider doing in the future, or was it just because of the circumstance at your home gym?
No, this is definitely something I've been thinking about for quite some time now. Just the level of competition here at the lab, just training partner-wise, it's an awesome camp. It has a lot of great guys. There's a reason why, Henderson was champion, and, Escudero was getting another shot in the UFC because how good he is, and, there's just a lot of top talent here and great coaching, so it made sense for me to come down here and work with some smaller people, more my size.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you got that release from the UFC, what was something that you thought you needed to change if you are going to make a run back to get back there? You are going to string some wins together to get back there. Because I thought, maybe this was something that you were going to do. Maybe switch up training, move to a different place, start training at a different gym. But obviously, you've just explained the situation. So, what's the main thing that you feel that you need to do better or change up if you're going to make another run in the UFC?
I think what needed to be done got done. With the UFC actually, let me go and making me realize how, I had my dream. I had everything I wanted, everything I put forward to my fighting career taken away from me with them cutting me. I think, with them getting rid of me and realizing I got too comfortable with the UFC, it definitely brought the hunger back to wanting to fight. And it's not going to go good for Des Green for being my first opponent out of the UFC.
Mm-hmm. Just curious, what are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
He's tough. He's very, very tough. Yeah, seems like a great wrestler. I've heard, he has great credentials as a wrestler. He seems extremely athletic, quick. He's learning. He's at a new camp himself at TriStar, helping, Faraz is a great coach. I'm pretty sure he's going to be well prepared. So, I'm looking forward to this matchup. I still think, he's young enough where he's gonna make a mistake, and I've been around too long to not capitalize on it.
Mm-hmm. Just curious, what do you think his camp is telling him to do against you in this fight?
Take me down. What everyone says my fighting is I struggle with wrestlers, and put me on my back. So I don't think he's gonna want to stand with me. I think that's too dangerous for him. So why not go to what his strong point and just try to take me down and hold me down for 25 minutes?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, obviously, you'll be able to tell me better after the fight because, you haven't stepped in there against him yet, but do you view him as a step down in competition, a lateral step? Because in my eyes, it looks like, maybe if you would have won your last fight, this might have been a guy, similar skill set, similar resume, I guess, who you would have fought in the UFC. Maybe someone who, had you continued on there, you would have fought someone like him. How do you view him? Where do you view him skill-wise and competition-wise?
I got to think of him as one of the top guys I've ever fought. I can't downplay him and think he's a slouch, because then I'll just like the number of hot fight, I take it for granted, and then I probably not train as hard, and it won't turn out good. So I got to act like I'm fighting one of the top 145ers in the world, and I got to make an example out of him.
Mm-hmm. Now, the last time you fought on a main card was against Honey Jason, and I think that was the only time you fought on a main card in the UFC, and the last time you fought in either a main event or co-main event is back when you fought against Cole Escovedo at Showdown Fights 3 back in January 2011, so it's been a while since you've been in a headlining spot. Does that mean anything to you, to be fighting on the top of the card, or does it really not matter to you where you fight?
No, it doesn't matter to me where I fight. In my eyes, this fight I feel is the main event. I don't feel. I haven't really heard a lot of stuff about the main event, even with the heavyweight fight for the title. I think more people are talking and more excited for me and Des Green than anything else. So it may not be last on the card, but I feel this one's the actual main. This is a true main event.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, you see yourself winning the fight, but how do you see this one playing out?
I'll either knock him out with him coming in for a shot, or he'll leave something open and I'll catch him with the submission. So, either way, I'm more than happy just to be able to bring that belt home.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, not looking past Des Green, but it's looking more and more likely whoever wins this fight is going to be facing Kurt Halabaugh. You hold a win over Kurt. Is that a fight that you're open to if you win this belt, and if Titan says he's the number one contender? Is that a fight that you're interested in?
From what I've been told, it's Holabaugh's fight in February for the title. So, if I have to fight again, not have to, I'm more than happy to fight for Titan again. But if I'm not back in the UFC by after this fight, then I'm excited to fight Halabaugh again.
Mm-hmm. So you think that if you win this fight, the UFC is going to come calling? Because obviously we've seen guys from Titan. Heck, Ben Saunders didn't even fight for Titan, and he got a contract with the UFC. Then we got guys like Walt Harris who fought once, and now he's up in the big show. How close do you think you are? Obviously, you just said a little bit earlier in this interview that Sean Shelby said that they were going to try to hold you off until summer, so obviously you're on the radar, and obviously you were in their plans at one point in time. So how close do you think you are? Just this one fight?
It really doesn't matter. I'm hoping one, but if it's 2, 3, 4, I'll do whatever it takes. We'll just hopefully Titan keeps me active, because I hate not being in training camp because it makes me feel unemployed and useless. So I want to be able to keep fighting as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. This will be your third fight of the year. Usually you fight 3 fights in a year. Is that a good number of fights for you?
If it was up to me, I'd have 6 or 7.
Okay. I was just curious about that. Well, Steven, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
First, make sure you guys give me a follow at Steve Siler on Twitter. Also, big thanks to my sponsors, especially Flagship Financials, Will Farrar, who's done so I'm so blessed to have him. He's done so much for me that I can't explain all the stuff and all the trouble he's gotten me out of all the time. He's always there for me. When our gym was going under, he bought the gym to keep it open to help us, gave me a place to train. Probably one of the best human beings I've ever met in Will Farrar. Ryan from Warrior Fuel, having his baby around, he keeps me running and makes me tired. So for me to get through practice, I take me some Warrior Fuel, and it gives me the energy I need to get through practice. So Warrior Fuel and Flagship Financials, best things that happened to me.
Steven, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck December 19th at Titan FC 32 against Des Green.
Awesome. Thank you very much.